Here we are, part 3, the last part of my 3-part video series on how to get a job. This video series is for the forhire subreddit on Reddit. A lot of you sent me messages. Saying that you needed help getting work, and I spent a half an hour with about a dozen of you and began to see a lot of similarities between the questions that were being asked and the kinds of information I could share. So that's what these 3 videos are, so that I can be a lot more effective as opposed to doing 30-minute sessions and kind of saying the same thing over and over again. So if after watching all 3 of these you still have additional questions, like send me a message and we'll talk, and maybe there's some way I can help you. But at least have your bases covered, and that's what these 3 videos are for. So the first one we talked about the resume. Second one we talked about the website. We covered off on all the essential things, I would say, for those 2. Your mileage may vary. Try some different things. You might create a really creative resume, or you might do something entirely unique or different for your website. Like, that's fine, as long as you've got those things. So the third thing I want to talk about is recruiters. And the reason I want to talk about recruiters is because there's a lot of misconceptions, there's a lot of false information, and there's a lot of fear and insecurity about how to deal with recruiters. Many have never even talked to a recruiter and wouldn't understand why it would be a good idea to do so. So I want to do that right now. First of all, before I talk about recruiters, I want to talk about how ineffectual sending resumes are. Sending resumes is. That sentence sounded a little bit weird. So, sending resumes or applying to jobs, you're going to see, Indeed and Dice and LinkedIn and Craigslist and forhire and a lot of places where jobs get posted. And for a lot of people, getting work means reading job descriptions, clicking apply, sending a resume, writing a cover letter, and then that's it. And then clicking submit, and then moving on to the next one. And some people go through 20, 30, 40, and they just keep applying and applying and applying and get nowhere, and they go month after month without any work. That's because resume submission is kind of a crapshoot. First of all, if you have a resume but no website, you're way disadvantaged. So many people are just sending their resumes and they have no link to any kind of other online presence, no LinkedIn or no website, and no explanation of any kind of work that they've ever done. So you're basically pitting your resume against a lot of other people who have all that stuff figured out and have all that online presence figured out. So number one, you're at a disadvantage because the playing field's not level. You're way down here. So let's assume that you have all of your stuff figured out. You've got a resume, you've got a website, you've got your LinkedIn, you've got a profile on Indeed and Dice. Okay, you've done all that stuff. Now you're at the baseline. Now you're at the, where you can at least get some traction. But if you don't have all that stuff, you might as well not even be applying because you don't have all your stuff figured out. Once you've got all that stuff figured out, then you can start applying and writing your cover letters and things like that. But don't rely on applying to websites as your primary form of getting work. And here's why. When you apply, you are kind of divorced from your identity. All you are at that point is a name and some experience, and that's it. When you have a connection, when you have somebody who's on the inside, you can be presented in a good light, and somebody can come alongside you and say, hey, I got this guy here, or this girl here, she's really good at such and such, it's exactly what you need, why don't you talk to them? That kind of introduction goes a long way. So some people will say, well, talk to your family and friends and find out who's hiring, things like that. That's good. But let me suggest to you this. If you can learn how to use recruiters really well, you can get work. And the reason is this. Recruiters work in all of the big cities, even some small cities, building relationships with companies. And all these companies have recruiting agencies find talent for them, and then they rely on the recruiters to spend all that time vetting through people, talking to people, building up relationships, and then bringing that person in and saying, hey, I found the person you're looking for. So those recruiters are working very hard to find the right match. They're matchmakers. They say, I have a square peg, I have a square hole, I want to put these two together. That's what a recruiter does, and then they take money on top of that. Now, there are dishonest recruiters. There are scummy recruiters out there, for sure, and I've dealt with them. There are recruiters that will flat out lie to you. There will be recruiters that try to manipulate you. They make you feel frustrated and upset and lied to, basically. So those are the recruiters you should avoid. When you start to come in contact with more recruiters, you'll realize that there is a spectrum, and that bottom, 5% or 10%, you just need to say, I don't really feel like working with you, or just don't call them back. But you want are the recruiters that you can build somewhat of a relationship with, and the kind that will want you to come in and talk to them. They'll meet with you in person. They'll have lots of questions about what your experience is, lots of questions about what type of work you're looking for, and things like that. And then when they have a really good understanding in their heads, they can start looking at their clients and trying to figure out, is there something that I know about? Is there a job posting that I know about that this person fits in? Or sometimes recruiters will actually pitch you to a company that doesn't even have any job openings posted and say, hey, I have somebody who's really good at what you guys are doing. Do you need somebody like this? I've had that happen too. So recruiters are fantastic. There are some bad ones. Avoid those and go for the good ones, and that's how you're going to have really good results. So the way that I work with recruiters is this. First of all, I do a Google search, and I figure out what are all the recruiters in my area for my industry. So if you are a designer, there are creative recruiters. If you are in HR, there are human resources recruiters. If you are an accountant, there are financial recruiters. If you are a developer, there are programming, development recruiters. If you are in business and marketing, things like that, there are corporate recruiters. So there are all different kinds for all these different kinds of work that you can do, and your goal is to find those and have them represent you to their clients. So you're going to have that in to be able to get into the type of company that you want to work for. You can tell your recruiter anything about what you're looking for. I'm looking to work, 15 minutes from home. I want it to be a small company and a very casual environment. And then they'll think and say, okay, I know a couple of companies that we work with, and they fit that criteria. So let's talk to them. So you can get a lot more specific. Whereas when you're looking at job postings online, you look at a job posting, you say, I can do that, and then you click apply. But you don't know where they are a lot of times. You don't necessarily know what the budget range, the salary range is going to be. You don't necessarily know all the benefits. They might tell you 401k and things like that, but maybe you don't know what kind of intangible benefits there are about working there. Maybe it's a really great environment that you wouldn't know about unless somebody had been in there. Maybe the recruiter has gone in there and actually seen the office. So recruiters are your liaisons to help you understand the marketplace, who's out there. So let's talk about money. Let's talk about marketplace. Money is a good transition here. Recruiters will be sometimes a little shady with you about the money issue. And the way to handle this, first of all, is to figure out your market rate. If you figure out your market rate, you have gone 75% of the way. The way to figure out your market rate is the first 3 recruiters that you talk to, you need to explain to them what your experience is, how long you've been doing it, things like that, and then ask them, what do you think the market rate is for my skill set? What kind of range are you seeing people with 5 years of carpentry experience? How much are they getting paid typically, from what dollar amount to what dollar amount? And then recruiter might hem and haw and things like that, but if they're any good, they might say, well, I'm seeing a lot of postings for 25 to 35 an hour. Okay, so talk to 3 recruiters, get that number, and figure out what the average between the 3 is. You're probably going to have a pretty good idea of what your market value is. When you understand your market value, every single time you talk to any other recruiter, you can always say, the research I've done shows that the range that I can expect from my experience is $25 to $35 an hour. Even if they say, so let's talk, what about the other question that they sometimes ask you? How much were you making at your last job? You don't have to answer that, and I wouldn't answer that actually. What I would say is, the research that I've done shows that the market rate value for how many years of experience I have right now is this range. So I think that's realistic for me, and I think that's the range I'd like you to pitch me to your clients at. There's really no way to argue with that. If they continue to balk at that and say, what did you make at your last job, just say, I'm not going to tell you what I made at my last job. I don't think that's relevant. What I want to find out right now is, can you help me get work at the market rate that I'm worth right now? And if they can't, they can't. So then move on to the next one. This last time I was out of work, I had 25 or 26 recruiters, I think, by the time I finally got work. So keep going until you get 100, or however many it takes. As much work as it takes, get in touch with as many recruiters as you can. Build relationships with the recruiters, befriend them, and keep a spreadsheet. By all means, please keep a spreadsheet. Every line, put the next recruiter that you're using, what company they work for, what their phone number is, what role they're pitching you at. If they're pitching you for H&R Block and you're a tax, you've got a degree in finance and you want to go work for H&R Block, they're pitching you at H&R Block, so you put H&R Block there. You put, senior tax consultant and the rate, the pay range, and what the status of that is. What happened last time that you called that recruiter, and then when was the last time that you called them. Make sure you put the date on there, so that you can look down the spreadsheet and go, I haven't talked to this. I haven't talked to 3 different recruiters in the last week. I need to get in touch with those people. So then you can send off an email or a phone call. So if you handle it like that, where you've got sort of a pipeline that you're building of all the different opportunities, you're gonna have a better handle on how you're doing. If you're continually filling the pipeline, and you can start to see, okay, I'm kind of getting closer to some phone interviews and things like that. That's the way I would handle that. When you just send off a resume and an application, it just goes into the ether, and you don't really have any kind of status. When you're working with a recruiter, they're doing all the follow-up calls, and they're doing follow-up emails and making sure that your information and resume is moving along, and then when you call them, they can give you a status. Yeah, I talked to the client last week. They just were getting ready to go on vacation. They're going to be back next week. Then they're going to take a look at your resume. So not knowing is terrifying and annoying and painful and depressing. But when you work with a recruiter, you're gonna know where you stand, because the recruiter is the one doing all that checking on the status of your application, basically. And then your goal, I think, should be, my goal has always been, to try to have 2 offers within a very short period of time if you can. So if you feel like things are ramping up with one of your potential prospects, don't put all your eggs in that basket. Get excited about that, but then go to the other recruiters and say, hey, I just wanted to let you know, I went on an in-person interview, it seemed really good, I think they're probably going to make an offer this week. I just want to find out, are you anywhere closer on any of the other opportunities you're working with me on, and get those recruiters really frothing to try to get you in front of somebody to maybe find something else. So if you can have 2 offers within a few days period of time, you're going to have a nice backup, so you'll be able to spend more time thinking about what are the pros and cons of each of these jobs. If you can have 2 things, you won't feel so pigeonholed into accepting one offer. Sometimes if you have been out of work for a long time, you might be grateful for just one offer. So if that's the case, by all means, please take the offer. If you're happy with what's being offered and they make you an offer, by all means, accept the offer. But I would say don't ever accept the offer immediately as soon as it's given. At least say, thank you very much, I'm going to need a few hours to think about this, or a day. If they're courteous and a good place to work for, then they'll have no problem with a day. I think a day is, not an unreasonable amount of time to ask for. And then truly spend that time. Talk to your family, talk to friends, spend time thinking about it. Write out the pros and cons. I've done that as well, to try to figure out which one is a better place for me in the long run. And don't just go by the dollar amount. It's tempting to say, well, this one pays more than this one, therefore it must be a better job. That's not always the case. 2 years ago, I accepted a job that paid $15,000 less. I had 2 offers. I accepted one that paid $15,000 less than the other offer, because a lot of the other intangibles were better. It was like a more casual company. I was more interested in the type of work I would be doing. I liked the people that I was interviewing with a lot better. So all of those things factor into your daily enjoyment of your job, and you don't want to go work a job for a couple of years and be miserable, or however long you end up staying in a company. You might stay for a long time. So try to find a job that fits you, as opposed to one that just pays you a lot of money. So that would be my final word on recruiters. If you have any other questions, you can feel free to message me on Reddit. My username is Solid Whetstone. Thank you for sitting through 15 minutes in this video, and it was a little bit longer. And I hope it was valuable, and like I said, hopefully this will cover the majority of questions that you might have about how to get a job. Just at a baseline, certainly, by all means, there's so much more that could be talked about the search and how to, which websites to go to and things like that. A lot of other posts and videos and things have covered some of that, so maybe I'll do something like that again in the future. But if you have any other topics you'd like me to do a video, I guess, on similar to this or related to this, if enough people ask me, I'll do another video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope it was useful to you, and if it was useful, feel free to leave a comment in the Reddit thread, and just let me know, I guess. Thanks very much.